So I think I always talk about how we do these mailbag editions of the Morning Pit on Friday. What the process is. We take the questions on the message boards at Panther-Lair.com and put up a post on Tuesday or Wednesday. Take questions. The questions sit there throughout the week, and then we record this Friday mailbag, the Friday Morning Pit, which is the mailbag, and I answer all the questions then. And I think I've said before, I don't tend to go into the questions until I'm about ready to record. Now, I'll take a look before I start, just so if there's anything I need to look up or anything I need to research. But for the most part, I don't really I don't look at the questions like throughout the week. I try to leave that thread untouched, so all the posts or new posts, it's easy to find the questions and things like that. Sometimes, actually, it doesn't happen very often, but it just so happened this week that there's like multiple questions on a topic that I spent a decent amount of time yesterday researching so I could ask Pat Narduzzi about it. And it's pretty unbelievable that you guys asked these questions because I really wanted an opportunity to talk about this. There's no reason that I would do a whole episode on this one little stat that I found that I dug up yesterday. I wouldn't do a whole Morning Pit episode about it, but I was like, I really want to talk about this and spread this. And then I go into the mailbag and there's like multiple questions about this very topic. I don't know how it happened. It's serendipity. We're all on the same wavelength. It's beautiful, but I'm so happy you guys asked those questions because I can't wait to get into it. Coin tosses, everybody. We're going to talk about the coin tosses. And actually, you might be like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, but it's not the dumbest thing you've ever heard. I will probably say something else during these next 20 minutes that would qualify as the dumbest thing you've ever heard. This, though, is actually interesting because there's something to look into and something to think about and something to watch for on Saturday, depending on how it pans out. So I'm not going to give any more. I don't need any more lead into this. Let's get into the questions here on the Morning Pitt Mailbag on YouTube.com/Panther-Lair.com. All right, welcome to the Friday edition of the Morning Pit here on YouTube.com/Panther-Lair.com. I'm Chris Peak from Panther-Lair.com. You know the deal, what we always do, blah, 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 Panther-Lair.com. Most comprehensive source of Pitt sports news on the internet, blah, blah, blah. I say all these things every day. We don't need to go over them again, except to ask you to like this video and subscribe to YouTube.com/Panther-Lair.com so you don't miss any of our Pitt video content. Like I said, if you want to be part of the mailbag, the way to do it is on the message boards at Panther-Lair.com, where every week we take questions from Pitt fans and we answer as many as we can here in the Friday edition of the Morning Pit, our Morning Pit Mailbag. And I want to jump in. I don't even want to delay because I'm so excited about these questions. The first question right off the bat, Hail to Knowledge says, why won't Pitt go on defense first to start the game? Why do we always take the ball when we win the coin toss? Should they pursue this strategy to try to get better starting field position for the offense instead of regularly starting inside the 20? And then there are actually a couple follow-ups. Chief Justice Marshall says, Dear Pat, if you win the coin toss, defer. And then Chief Justice Marshall posts again in the mailbag. Didn't ask any questions here, but it's on topic. Says, so now with Nate Yarnell, stubborn Pat, if he wins the toss, will take the ball first because, as Putty said, got to support the team. So it's amazing that you guys asked about the coin toss, all right? It truly is. And like I said, I didn't look at these questions prior to sitting down to record this thing yesterday. But yesterday morning, I went through 124 games of the Pat Narduzzi era, every single game to chart how many times they won the coin toss, how many times they lost, and when they won the coin toss, how many times they took the ball and how many times they deferred. Okay? 124 games. I did it, and I did it yesterday morning because I wanted to see, because it does seem like, boy, they've been taking the ball a lot. And actually this year they have been taking the ball a lot. Pitt has won the coin toss 5 times this season, 6 times this season, and they've deferred twice and taken the ball 4 times. The most recent time they deferred, and one of the only 2 times they deferred this year, they deferred at Cincinnati and they deferred at SMU. The other 4 times they've won the coin toss against Youngstown State, Cal, Syracuse, and most recently Virginia for home games, incidentally, they took the ball each time. And I looked this up because I heard somebody say it on Saturday after they won the coin toss and took the ball. I heard somebody say, boy, it seems like they're really taking the ball a lot. And they have this year. They've won the coin toss 6 times. They've taken the ball 4 times. But get this, okay? This is what's really interesting to me, and this is what I actually asked Pat Narduzzi about yesterday. So the first time that they won the coin toss and took the ball this season was the Youngstown State game, okay? That was the first time this season. The last time They won the coin toss and took the ball prior to the Youngstown State game this season. The last time they won the toss and took the ball was the Georgia Tech game in 2018. Like literally 30 plus times they won the coin toss between that game and the Youngstown State game this year, and they deferred. 2019, 20, 21, 22, and 23, the entire season, 5 full seasons, when they won the coin toss, they deferred. Now, they didn't always win the coin toss, and they actually had a couple years where they were really bad at winning the toss. 2020, they only won the coin toss twice out of 11 games. 2019, they only won the coin toss 4 times. Same thing in 2021. They only won the coin toss 4 times in 2021. So it was a weird thing to only win the toss like 10 times over the course of 3 seasons. But I digress. What's interesting is that more often than not, by a wide margin, Pat Narduzzi has always deferred. Here's your big stats, okay? Over the course of Narduzzi's time here, Pitt has won the coin toss 58 times. Narduzzi has deferred 50 out of those 58 times. What's interesting to me, and what I asked Pat Narduzzi about yesterday is, okay, so since you've been here, you've taken the ball 8 times when you won the coin toss. 4 of those 8 have been this season. So what changed? And he said, it's about the feel for the staff, and we talk on Thursday about what the staff wants to do, and we consider it by weather and this and that. And I guess I get that, but for the most part, I don't. Because, okay, if it's back and forth like that, how did you go 5 full seasons of deferring every single time? And again, they didn't have the ball a ton of times. I think about 25 times they won the coin toss over the course of those 5 seasons. But they deferred every single time. And so I actually asked them later. I was like, okay, so what about Whipple? Didn't Mark Whipple want the ball? Because 2019, 2020, 2021, you deferred every time. Didn't Whipple want the ball? But Whipple was a former head coach. Whipple was a head coach, and I think head coaches typically want to defer because it's not just Pitt that defers all the time under Narduzzi. Like I say, their opponents have won the coin toss 66 times. They've only taken the ball 13 times. Pitt opponents since 2015 have only taken the ball 13 times. Most teams do defer because that actually does make the most sense. I think there's a lot of reasons behind that. I think there's actually far fewer reasons why you would take the ball than there are why you would defer. I think the value of deferring far outweighs the value of taking the ball. First off, if you defer and you get a stop, you're going to get the ball after a punt probably in better field position than you would after the kickoff, which I think is what Hail to Knowledge was sort of implying or referencing, is that you'll get better field position. I think that's, I also think, me personally, I would rather play defense on the first series and then have offense on the first drive of the second half where you've seen the defense for, 2 quarters and maybe you have a little bit better chance of putting something together there. I like guaranteeing myself that possession. You know how I always think about it too? If you end the first half and the other team scores, all right, well, you're getting the ball back and you got a chance to answer it. And if you end the first half and you score, you're going to go back-to-back drives and get a chance to build on it, right? If you're trailing, you get that first possession of the second half, an opportunity to build back. If you're winning, you get that first possession of the second half and an opportunity to build on your lead. And so for me, I would always defer, and that's been historically what Pat Narduzzi has done. Again, 50 out of 58 times he has chosen to defer. This season is the anomaly. He's taken the ball 4 times through his first 9 seasons at Pitt, 2015 through 2023. This year, he's taken it 4 times. My guess on Saturday, the coin toss, if Pitt wins the toss, my guess is they'll defer. It's what they should do, because those 4 times they took the ball this year, they punted 3 times and scored 1 touchdown. And I think the touchdown was the Youngstown State game. They won the coin toss and took the ball against Cal. They punted. Syracuse, they punted. Virginia, they punted. They did get the Youngstown State deferred. Not Youngstown State. Kent State deferred. Pitt got the ball and they scored a touchdown. Carolina deferred and Pitt got the ball and scored a field goal. So sometimes it works out when you have the first possession. But for the most part, you probably always want to defer, and I would think Pat Narduzzi, given the option this week, if he has the option, will choose to defer. I think it just makes more sense to do so, and I think probably because I told him that stat also, that, you've taken the ball 4 times this year and you punted on 3 of those. And he didn't seem happy about that stat. We'll see if he takes it to heart. Maybe we impacted the game plan and the strategy during our Thursday media sit-down with Pat Narduzzi, but we'll see if they take it to heart on Saturday if they win the coin toss against Clemson. So I just think it's awesome that you guys asked that question and brought up that topic, since it was something I had already looked into and had all this data in a spreadsheet. I like to be able to use it. All right. Joe Magarak says this week will be a challenge for Pitt versus a talented Clemson team. Pitt will probably line up with a patchwork offensive line, a second-string quarterback, an almost non-existent running game, and a so far underwhelming starting tight end. Should Pitt line up with 3 wide receivers, assuming they have 3 wide receivers available, 2 running backs, and no tight end? This alignment may give more flexibility and options to Pitt's offense and a different look to Clemson's defense. I realize that Pitt may not have practiced this formation much this year, but at this point of the season, what have you got to lose? Thanks for your thoughts. It's interesting. I don't entirely hate it just and dismiss it out of hand, but I think this team is built more to try to run out of a spread formation. And quite frankly, with the way they're blocking, I mean, I don't know if having 2 backs helps you as much as either spreading out, you know what I mean? Because when they have the tight end, I mean, a lot of times Gavin Bartholomew's lined up wide anyway, and just trying to spread out the defense and find holes that way, or bring in the tight end as one of your eligible guys and have him line up and try to help the offensive tackles on whichever side you're going to run it to. I feel like with 2 running backs, one guy could act as a lead back and try to clear a path and have the other back follow him. That would be an option. Otherwise, it seems to me like you're just bringing one more defensive player into the box and making it more difficult for yourself to run. I think if they're going to run, they either need to run out of spread or something heavy. Like who knows? Maybe you could run out of 2 receivers, 2 tight ends, and a back. A single back. Maybe you could try that and have 2 tight ends lined up either on one side of the formation or split, as wings. I mean, I think there's other options. I just don't know if 2 backs. I don't know. I don't think it gives you necessarily a schematic advantage. I don't think it gives you a numbers advantage. I think ultimately the impact would be just bringing another defender into the box, which will make it harder to run. So I think you either spread them out or you go heavy. I don't know if you go kind of in between. Jay Lazinger asked something similar. I saw you post about losing the left side of the offensive line. Any reason we don't attempt max protect or keep a tight end fullback Carter in to block? The tight ends block sometimes. Let me bring up the pass blocking. Jake Overman he's only. So actually, you know what? This is a good point. All right, because now I just brought up the numbers on Pro Football Focus, okay? And I brought up the pass blocking numbers, all right? On pass plays, what's happening with the tight ends on pass plays? And according to Pro Football Focus's numbers, Gavin Bartholomew has run a pass route 298 times. Jake Overman has run a pass route 118 times. Bartholomew has pass blocked 9 times. And Overman is pass blocked 6 times. So when the tight ends are on the field for a passing play, they're going out and running. And it's like 5% or 3% of the snaps that they're actually going out and going and pass blocking. So that might be something to look at. But I think there's still these basic principles of the spread offense where you're trying to create one-on-one matchups, establish those one-on-ones, and the more guys you keep in to block, the less one-on-one, man-to-man matchups you're able to create. So it just sort of seems to me like, I think it would be a pretty drastic change in the approach, and a change in how they operate this offense and what kind of offense it is. I think when you see these spread offenses, usually you got 5 guys running out there, running routes out there, trying to get open and catch passes because you're trying to create those one-on-one matchups to give a guy a chance to make one man miss and make a play. And so like I agree with you, but I just think it would be a pretty significant departure from what they've done offensively so far this season. And I just don't know if I don't want to say you can't make a drastic change at this point in the year, but I think it's pretty tough to do. I think it's pretty tough to incorporate concepts that you haven't really used all season, and then hope that they can work. I think, at this point with what this team has done, they probably would just find themselves with very few pass options. They might have more time in the pocket, but they're not going to have a lot of options because they'll end up with more guys, more guys being covered or double covered. So, I mean, that's my initial thought on that, but I'm not an offensive coordinator. I'm not smart enough to figure out. I'm not smart enough to figure it out. So, let's see here. Smedges says, is a 9-win season for Pitt football in 2024 a rousing success? And I want to add another question in here. 121 Rum asked, what's more likely now, finishing with 9 wins or finishing with 7? Beating Boston College and winning the bowl game will likely be tough, but I have to think it's more likely than finish the season on a 6-game losing streak. So I'm going to roll these two into one, and I'm going to answer 121 Rum's question first. I still think it's more likely that they win 9 games than they finish with 7. Like, if you give me the option between, are they going to win 9 or are they going to win 7? I'm going to pick 9 out of that group. And even if that means losing this week and next week, beating Boston College and winning a bowl game and finishing 9-4, or however that it kind of boils down, winning 2 out of the final 3. So let's go scenarios, okay? Worst case scenario, they lose out, right? And they finish 7-6. Terrible result, disastrous result after the 7-0 start, no question. Next case scenario, they lose this week and next week, so they're on a 4-game losing streak. They beat Boston College and win their bowl game to go 8-5. Would that be 8-5? No, that would be 9-4. No. The worst case scenario is they lose out, right, and they go 7-6. The next worst case scenario is they only win 1 out of the next 4 games, including the bowl, and they go 8-5. However that pans out, if it's losing to Boston College and you finish on a 5-game losing streak in the regular season, or it's beating Boston College and losing the bowl game, which might be slightly more palatable than finishing on a 5-game losing streak and winning the bowl game. But either way, 8-5 is not good. I think if you end up with a result that's 9-4, whether it's a 4-game losing streak, beating Boston College and winning the bowl game, or however it sort of shakes out that you go 9-4, I think it's, yes, to Smedge's question, it's a rousing success. And you can get into the details and this and that. Well, yeah, but they did this and then they did that. And you know what, man? If they changed your expectations with the 7-0 start, so be it. Okay, they did. But when I think you can be in the course of the season and your expectations can change. But when you get to the end of it, you have to look back at the entirety of what happened. And if they can find a way to get to 9 wins and they finish 9-4, whether it's 9-3 in the regular season with a bowl loss or 8-4 in the regular season with a bowl win, if they finish 9-4, yeah, we can haggle over the details, and they're not unimportant. And I'm not going to claim that the details don't matter and the context doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, 9-4 is absolutely a rousing success. If your loss total from one year turns into your win total the next year, in the good way, not that you go from 10-2 to 2-10, but if your loss total from one year turns into your win total the next year in the good way, that's a rousing success. And I think no matter how cynical you are, if that's where they end up, you've got to sit back at the end of the day and be like, that was a hell of a season and a hell of a turnaround from 3-9. Because you can't, no matter how hard you try, you're not going to be able to talk around the fact that they would have then won 9+ games in 3 out of 4 seasons, which they have not done since the early 1980s. And Narduzzi, he's never going to get us out of this, or he's never going to do that, or blah, blah, blah. If they win 9 games this year, I mean, it's a remarkable accomplishment. And yes, to Smedge's question, it is a rousing success. And only the most negative and cynical among us would waste anything more than a few sentences of oxygen on, well, yeah, but they started 7-0 and then they fell apart when the blah, blah, blah. You know what, man? Did they feast on weaker competition in the first half of the schedule? Sure. Did they lose to weaker competition in the first half of the schedule last year? Do they often, or have they, on a more regular basis than you would like to see, lose to weaker competition? Yeah. This team went out and took care of business for 7 straight games. They got 2, pretty exciting wins, I would say, with the comebacks against Cincinnati and West Virginia. They did something they've never done before by winning at North Carolina. And then did they run into struggles? Yeah. Did this team, did Water find its level to a certain extent? Yeah. Were they ever going to be a playoff team? Probably not. They leveled out a little bit. But to bounce out of it and win a couple more games here, no matter how it goes, and no matter where those wins come, that makes the season a success. And if one of those wins, if they can finish the regular season 9-3 by winning 2 out of these final 3 games, I don't want to hear anybody talk about how the season wasn't a success. Because there were even people, after the 2021 season, well, if they had beaten Western Michigan. No, none of that. All right, that year they won the conference. They won 11 games. No, just allow yourself to enjoy it. And if they can win this week, or they can win next week, or they can win the week after that, if they can get 9 wins out of this, that is absolutely a rousing success, particularly as a bounce back from last year. And I don't expect people right now in the middle of the season to talk about, boy, what a great. Yeah, I don't expect people right now, okay, with Pitt stuck in a 2-game losing streak, facing the toughest competition of the season here on Saturday. And sort of feeling like things are spiraling and swirling and all that kind of stuff. I don't expect you to sit back and be like, yeah, but it's okay because remember how bad last year was. I don't expect you to do that in the middle of the season. I think that runs counter to the nature of following a team week to week and being right in the middle of it. But when you get to the end of the season, if the first number in their record is a 9 or greater, and maybe even an 8, but I understand if you're a little bit wishy-washy on an 8. But if it's a 9 or more, after all the games are done, when you sit back, I don't know how you could say anything other than, that was a hell of a season. That was a rousing success. Really. Now, if they don't pull that off, if they end up 7-6, or they end up 8-5, then we can have different conversations. But if they can get 2 more wins out of the next 4 games, I hope you'll allow yourself to enjoy the fact that this program went from 3-9 to 9-4, if that's where it ends up in one season. Because you all were very quick to point out how the program fell off a cliff going from 9-4 to 3-9. So if they can turn that back around and go 3-9 to 9-4, I think you have to jump back up on top of the cliff just as quickly and willingly as you jumped off. All right, let's see. 2 more quick ones here. J-Town Panther fan, given Pitt's offensive struggles over the past month, are you surprised Clemson is only a 10-point favorite on Saturday? Yeah, you throw in the home field thing. Basically, Clemson would be a 2-touchdown favorite on a neutral field. I'm a little bit surprised about that. But, at the same time, I think when you get double digits, when you're a double-digit favorite on the road in a conference game, I think Vegas is pretty clearly saying they expect a blowout. And so, I wouldn't expect the number to get crazy. I think -10 tells the story. And then final one, Potter County native says, will Pitt try to beat Clemson on the ground or through the air? Watching some Clemson games earlier, their defense is not the strength, and it seems they're weak in the secondary. I think it would be really interesting, and it sort of flies against everything we just said about changing your offense midseason, but it would be very interesting if Pitt goes into this game and tries to just drag Clemson down to the mud and just run and grind it out and eat clock and just try to make this game as ugly as possible to try to win it 12-9 or something like that. I think that would be an interesting approach of you know what? We are just going to play this game ugly. Maybe I don't know if is it supposed to rain on Saturday? Let me bring up my trusty weather monitor here. No, it looks like it's going to be clear. It's just going to be cool. I don't think it's the worst thing for them to try to just pull it down. If you got a backup quarterback and backup offensive lineman and who knows about the receivers and all this stuff, just get ugly with it and be like, you know what? We've been pretty this season. We've done all these exciting things, and now we're just going to try and drag you into a rock fight. And I don't know if they can win a rock fight or not, but might as well give it a try. If you're going to have offensive struggles, you might as well just try and get ugly with it. Who knows? Maybe it'll work out. I don't know. We'll see what happens. It'll be interesting. We got a lot to watch on Saturday, right? Will Pitt try and make it ugly? Will Pat Narduzzi take the ball if they win the coin toss? I don't think so. I bet he defers. This is just my guess, but we'll all be watching that. I hope I've made this enough of a big topic that we'll all be paying extra attention to what Pitt does if they win the coin toss. Watch, we'll talk all this stuff, and then they'll go out there and they'll lose the coin toss anyway. And Clemson will defer, and Pitt will get the ball first, and we'll see what happens. But anyway, thanks so much for all the questions this week. They were great questions. I can't believe how well that lined up. But thanks to the questions. Thanks for tuning in today. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. And don't forget, we will be live after the Clemson game tomorrow night, probably around 6 or 7 o'clock for the Panther-Lair post-game show. I can't wait. Hopefully you tune in. We should have a good time talking about this game tomorrow, no matter what happens. So, and then, of course, make sure you tune in for all the coverage at Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com. Thanks again for watching the videos all week. Have a great Friday night. Enjoy the game tomorrow. Enjoy your weekend. And we will talk to you tomorrow night for the live show after the game, and then on Monday for the Morning Pit right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com.